This is no longer a hollow threat, but a devastating reality that unfolded the moment the first units of United States Marines set foot in the Persian Gulf. In a direct and brutal response to what Tehran labels illegal aggression, Iran has launched a barrage of hypersonic ballistic missiles carrying over 1 ton of explosives each, aimed directly at strategic military targets, stretching from central Israel to American logistical hubs across the region. The arrival of United States forces did not cause Tehran to flinch. Instead, it ignited a level of fury never seen before. Latest battlefield reports indicate that Middle Eastern skies are being torn apart by dozens of lethal streaks from Fatah missile systems, weapons specifically engineered to penetrate the most advanced defense networks in existence today. This is an all-out assault, a scenario that geopolitical analysts have long feared, but few believed would actually manifest with such terrifying magnitude. This escalation follows shocking reports regarding the death of the Iranian supreme leader in a precision Israeli airstrike that lasted a mere 50 seconds. The loss of the top leader did not cause the Iranian military machine to collapse. Rather, it created a power vacuum filled by extremism and an uncompromising will for revenge. In Tehran, where there were once discussions of freedom and democracy, there is now only the sound of sirens and the sight of rubble following waves of carpet bombing. However, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has proven they still maintain command and control from fortified bunkers deep underground. These facilities were designed to withstand nuclear strikes, and from those very dens, the final attack orders were broadcast. A total war has truly begun, and the presence of United States Marines in the Persian Gulf has been the equivalent of pouring gasoline onto a raging inferno. The global economy is already reeling as oil prices surge past $150 per barrel, threatening to collapse international trade routes. In Washington, the administration stands firm, yet the sheer scale of the Iranian retaliation has caught many by surprise. United States missions in Riyadh and Kuwait have come under heavy fire, forcing the immediate closure of embassies and leaving thousands of civilians scrambling for safety. The Pentagon is currently tracking multiple incoming projectiles, while the Israeli Defense Forces have shifted to a maximum state of readiness. Every second counts as the world watches the Middle East descend into a level of violence that threatens to redraw the map of the modern world. This is not just a regional conflict, it is the beginning of a global catastrophe where the rules of engagement have been permanently erased. As the sirens wail across the Mediterranean coast, the reality of a multi-front war has set in with terrifying speed. Israeli sources confirm that the legendary Iron Dome and the advanced aero defense systems were systematically overwhelmed by the sheer velocity and overwhelming volume of the Iranian Fatah missiles. Tel Aviv, once a bustling hub of global technology and culture, is now a landscape of fire and twisted metal, with smoke columns rising hundreds of feet into the air. But the destruction is not limited to Israeli soil. In Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, American military installations are facing a relentless rain of fire that has caught logistical planners off guard. The United States Fifth Fleet is currently on high alert as swarms of Iranian suicide drones and fast attack craft harass carrier strike groups in the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. This is a highly coordinated attempt to deny the United States any room to maneuver or resupply its forward-deployed units in the Persian Gulf. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has authorized a massive and unprecedented retaliatory response. Heavy B-52 Stratofortress bombers are reportedly operating over Iranian airspace, conducting what military officials call precision strikes against nuclear and missile facilities, but witnesses on the ground in Tehran describe a systematic campaign of carpet bombing. The strategic goal is clear: to dismantle the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps command and control structure once and for all, rendering the regime incapable of further strikes. Yet, the price is being paid by millions of civilians caught in the crossfire of this global escalation. In Washington, the administration has addressed the nation, declaring that the hour of freedom for the Iranian people has finally arrived. The president urged citizens to stay indoors and prepare to take back their government, but for many residents of the capital, that message is lost amidst the deafening roar of jet engines and the rhythmic thud of falling munitions. The original strategic calculation that this would be a swift and decisive victory is being proven wrong by the hour. Iran has spent decades preparing for this exact moment, turning its entire rugged geography into a subterranean fortress. This is no longer a surgical military operation, but a brutal war of attrition that threatens to consume the entire Middle East. The world is now witnessing a tectonic shift in power dynamics, where old alliances are being tested to their breaking point and new, bloodier realities are being forged in the heat of total combat. The global energy market has effectively entered a state of cardiac arrest as the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most vital oil artery, becomes a graveyard for merchant vessels. Iranian fast attack craft, integrated with swarm intelligence and armed with sophisticated anti-ship missiles, have established a lethal perimeter that no insurance company is willing to gamble on. Crude oil futures have skyrocketed, with some analysts predicting a surge toward $200 per barrel, a figure that would trigger a worldwide depression. In the capitals of Europe and Asia, the shockwaves are being felt not just in gas stations, but in the very foundations of their manufacturing sectors. The Islamic Republic has weaponized geography, proving that even a technologically superior force like the United States Navy must contend with the brutal mathematics of narrow waterways and asymmetric warfare. This is the hell that Tehran promised, a calculated disruption designed to make the cost of intervention unbearable for the Western coalition. On the ground in Israel, the situation has shifted from a state of emergency to a total news blackout. Major urban centers like Tel Aviv have been described by the few remaining foreign correspondents as ghost cities, where the silence is only broken by the thunder of interceptors or the impact of incoming warheads. Reports indicate that the Israeli government has implemented strict censorship on battle damage assessments to prevent panic and deny the Iranian military any intelligence on the effectiveness of their strikes. However, amateur footage leaking through decentralized networks shows a different story, one of significant structural damage to key infrastructure and a civilian population pushed to its absolute limit. In the United States, political figures have signaled an even darker turn in the conflict, calling for a massive campaign to neutralize the Iranian threat once and for all. This rhetoric reflects a terrifying shift in the rules of engagement, moving away from precision targeting toward a doctrine of total destruction. The humanitarian cost is already staggering, with Iranian state media reporting dozens of casualties at a school in Minab following a coalition airstrike. While the Pentagon works to verify these claims, the narrative of a liberation is rapidly being replaced by the grim reality of a scorched earth policy that leaves no room for diplomacy or retreat. The conflict has reached a point of no return, where every decision made in the war rooms of Washington and Tehran has the potential to trigger a domino effect that could collapse the modern world order. As the second week of the invasion approaches, the question is no longer who will win, but what will be left to govern when the smoke finally clears. The boots of United States Marines hitting the Persian sands have signaled a new and terrifying chapter in modern warfare. While Washington portrays this deployment as a strategic masterstroke to decapitate a rogue regime, many military historians are already drawing chilling parallels to the long and bloody quagmires of Afghanistan and Iraq. This is not a conventional battlefield where victory is measured by seized territory or fallen flags. Iran has spent over 4 decades preparing for this exact invasion, turning its vast mountainous terrain and dense urban centers into a sophisticated network of death traps. The Islamic Republic's strategy is not to defeat the American military in a head-on engagement, which would be tactically impossible, but to bleed the superpower through 1,000 cuts. We are already seeing the first signs of this asymmetric nightmare unfolding in real time. Reports from the front lines indicate that the majority of American casualties are not coming from direct firefights, but from highly sophisticated Iranian-made roadside bombs. Historically, these improvised explosive devices were responsible for as much as 75 or 80% of coalition casualties in past Middle Eastern conflicts, and today's versions are even more lethal, featuring advanced sensors and armor-piercing capabilities. Beyond its sovereign borders, Iran's reach is being felt through its proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas, who have fully mobilized to open secondary and tertiary fronts across the Levant and the Arabian Peninsula. This is no longer a localized conflict. It is a regional wildfire that is consuming every border and straining American logistical resources to their absolute limit. The United States and its allies are now forced to fight a ghost enemy that disappears into the civilian population and strikes from the shadows with terrifying precision. In Washington, hardline political figures have publicly called for a mass murder campaign to neutralize the threat within days, but such rhetoric only serves to fuel the fire of resistance on the ground. The Iranian people, even those who once harbored deep resentment toward their own regime, are now rallying under a banner of national survival against what they perceive as an illegal and brutal foreign invasion. This massive miscalculation by the American administration could turn a perceived masterstroke into the biggest military mistake of the 21st century. The world is watching as the most powerful military on Earth enters a labyrinth from which there may be no easy exit. Every village and every alleyway in the country has become a potential fortress, and as the Marines push deeper into the heart of Iran, they are finding that the warning of a welcome to hell was not just propaganda, but a tactical reality designed to break the will of the West through exhaustion and endless attrition. The political landscape in Washington has shifted toward a rhetoric of total annihilation, leaving no room for the diplomatic nuances of previous decades. Prominent political figures are now openly advocating for what they call a mass murder campaign to break the Iranian spirit within the next 2 weeks. This is a chilling departure from the language of precision and proportionality that once governed American military doctrine. Instead, the world is hearing promises to blow the hell out of the opposition, a sentiment echoed by some of the most vocal war hawks in the United States Senate. This aggressive posturing is intended to project strength, but on the streets of Tehran and Mashhad, it is viewed as a genocidal threat that has unified a fractured nation. The 50-second strike that claimed the life of the supreme leader was supposed to be the masterstroke that brought the regime to its knees, a surgical removal of the head to save the body. Instead, it has turned a political figure into a martyr, fueling a religious and nationalistic fervor that is proving impossible to contain. As the bombs continue to fall, the humanitarian situation has reached a breaking point, with schools and hospitals reportedly being caught in the crossfire of this unrestricted warfare. While the administration in Washington insists that it is only targeting military infrastructure, the sheer volume of ordnance being dropped makes civilian casualties an absolute certainty. The president has made a direct appeal to the Iranian people, telling them that the hour of their freedom is at hand, and urging them to seize their government once the dust settles. However, this message is being broadcast to a population that is currently burying its children and watching its heritage being turned into ash. There is a profound disconnect between the liberation narrative being sold to the American public and the brutal reality of an illegal invasion that has turned the Persian Gulf into a slaughterhouse. The strategic calculation that the Iranian people would welcome foreign troops with open arms has been shattered by the reality of a fierce and organized resistance. We are seeing a reunion of the same military strategies and personalities that led to the disasters of the past, now applied on a much larger and more dangerous scale. The end game remains invisible as the conflict transitions from a lightning strike into a permanent state of chaos that could last for generations. This is no longer about democracy or regional stability. It is about raw power and the high price of a miscalculated war. The conflict has now entered a phase where the initial goals of a swift and surgical strike have been buried under the weight of a prolonged and bloody struggle. Washington's gamble on a 50-second masterstroke to decapitate the Iranian leadership has not led to the collapse of the regime, but rather to a decentralized and more unpredictable resistance that has spread throughout the entire region. The Iranian response to the arrival of United States Marines has turned the Persian Gulf into a zone of perpetual danger, where every shipping lane is a potential kill zone and every horizon is filled with the black smoke of burning tankers and destroyed naval assets. This is the hell that was promised, a reality where the world's most powerful military finds itself locked in a war of attrition against an enemy that is willing to trade space for time and lives for ideological survival. We are witnessing the failure of a strategy that ignored the lessons of history, choosing instead to repeat the mistakes of previous decades with even more devastating consequences. The global consequences are profound and irreversible. The era of cheap energy and stable trade routes has been replaced by a new world order defined by scarcity, high prices, and constant conflict. Oil prices remain stuck at over $200 per barrel, and the global supply chain is in a state of total collapse. Allies who once stood firmly with the United States are now reconsidering their positions as their own domestic economies face the prospect of a total depression. In Israel, the ghost cities and the silence of the streets are a haunting reminder of the high cost of regional escalation, while in Tehran, the smoldering ruins serve as a testament to the resilience and the cold fury of a nation under siege. There are no winners in this scenario, only survivors who must now navigate a landscape stripped of the rules and norms that once governed international relations for nearly a century. As the final units of the invasion force push further into the Iranian heartland, they are met not with the promised cheers of liberation, but with the silent, burning hatred of a population that has lost everything and has nothing left to fear. The decision to illegally invade has not brought democracy or freedom. It has only brought a legacy of blood and fire that will haunt the Middle East for many generations to come. The Welcome to Hell warning was not just a phrase on a banner. It was a strategic prophecy that has now been fully realized in every valley and every urban center across the country. As the sun sets over the remains of what was once a global hub of energy and civilization, the only certainty is that the world order will never be the same again. This is the final chapter of a masterstroke turned into the biggest mistake of the 21st century, a tragedy written in the language of total war and the ink of human suffering. The era of American dominance in the region has been traded for a permanent state of chaos, leaving the international community to pick up the pieces of a shattered peace.